It's the Guitar Dads. It's the Guitar Dads.
Welcome to the Guitar Dads Podcast, a podcast for guitar dads by guitar dads. This week, we're getting right into it with a great interview. You'll want to stick around for some surprises, including our patron saint of the Guitar Dads Podcast, Joe Bonamassa. Also, a really cool rigged rundown with our guest, who also lets us in on some secrets from his time playing on not one, but three Keeping the Blues Alive at Sea cruises. Now, it's time to get fired up and fuzz-faced. Here are the guys, Matt and Dave.
Hello, everybody. I'm Matt.
And I'm Dave. And welcome to the pod. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome back. Welcome back. This is episode 54. You know, last week, Dave, I said it was episode 52, and it was really episode 53. And my friend Tim called us out. Thanks for that, Tim. Shout out to you.
So we have to do we have to re-record it now?
We might, but you know, it's what it is. I didn't have my episodes right, but this is episode 54, and it is a very special one with our guest.
Yes, a very special one. So I don't think we should waste any more time. So without further ado, let's get right into the interview. All right, tonight we are thrilled to be joined by Henry James. He is the guitarist for a killer rock band out of Southern California, Robert Jon and the Wreck. Our listeners are very familiar with these guys because we've talked about them so much before on the show. But tonight we get to take a deep dive and really get to know what these guys are all about. So with 6 studio albums under their belts and a soulful mix of Southern rock and blues, these 5 dudes have been rocking stateside and overseas since 2011. They're about to embark on another European tour in a few months. So, Henry, thanks so much for taking some time out for the Guitar Dads. How are you?
I'm great, man, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on here and talk about gear. I love nothing more than just chatting about what I love to do.
Oh,
so
that's
thanks
awesome.
for having me.
Well, thank you. You come to the right place if you want to talk about gear, and we are going to get to gear.
Yes,
we are going to get to gear, but yeah, we'd love to kind of hear about the band. Like Dave said, we've taught one of the things on this podcast, one of the themes of this podcast is keep rock alive, because there's people out there that are like, oh, you know, especially older people. It's not like we're like young guys, but there's older people that are like, you know, rock is dying. You know, there's no good bands anymore, and we're like, no. There's all kinds of incredible bands out there, and you guys,
absolutely.
And we came across you guys, and we were like, oh man, like these
guys are doing it right.
These guys are doing it right. So
we're trying.
So we like to tell our people about this and spread the word of rock and roll.
Absolutely.
So and that's what you guys are doing. You're spreading the gospel.
We're trying, man.
We're
definitely trying.
I'd love to hear about the kind of origins of the band. You know, how you guys got going. It seems like you guys have, you know, I know you guys are out there touring hard, but it seems like you guys have had some success, a lot of success.
Sure.
So yeah, if you could give us a little, history.
Well, so I can't speak in great detail about the very beginning because I wasn't there.
Yep.
The beginning is basically that Robert Jon and the drummer Andrew and our keyboard player Steve were all kind of running in the same circles around say 2010 2011 I think, and going to college and stuff like that, and basically initially they were sort of backing him up. Steve and Andrew were backing Robert up, and eventually it kind of evolved into more of like a fully fledged rock band. And I guess, you know, they just started touring heavily and got connected with some other people. And I didn't really know about them until around, I would say 2014 or 2015.
Okay.
From my perspective, a buddy of mine told me about them and was like, oh, dude, they're like the Allman Brothers. They rip. You got to check them out. They're local guys. And I became a fan immediately. I was a fanboy before I was in the band. And,
awesome. Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
And I had heard about them because I found out that they had done a little tour with Rival Sons, who I was a fan of. Still am a fan of.
They're like one of our favorite bands. They're
incredible. I love those guys, man.
Yeah.
They're incredible. And we actually got to do a little kind of one-off thing with Todd, the keyboard player of that band. Then for Steve, Steve plays with Toto, and Todd played keys with us on this last the Keeping the Blues Alive cruise. And we'll get more to that, but basically,
I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to finish this story though.
Please.
So basically, I'm a bit younger than the rest of the guys in the band. I'm about 5 years younger than everybody else.
Okay.
And I had heard of them, and they were already kind of local legends in my eyes. I already looked up to them a bunch, and one of the local promoters at this venue called the Wayfarer in Costa Mesa, which is about 10 minutes down the street from where I live. I'm in Huntington Beach.
Okay.
Texted me about the possibility of being interested in doing a Halloween set, because they used to do this thing. I'm sure they'll start doing it again, but kind of this thing where local bands would get together and they'd learn, a set of a whole, famous band or something like that.
Yeah,
so I wanted to do Jimi Hendrix. I've been playing Jimi Hendrix's songs for forever, and I really wanted to. I've always wanted to do a tribute set. I want to do it again, but at the time I was like very, very into the Hendrix thing, and so he let me on the bill, and the headliner for the bill was Robert Jon and the Wreck, and I was all psyched to meet them and play with them and stuff, and they seemed to think very highly of what I had done, and I hit it off with them, particularly Steve. Just hit it off with him, and he started inviting me to sit in with him at his gigs, and then eventually the band started inviting me out to do jams with them, and I sort of kind of became like a sixth member in a way, because at the time they already had a lead guitar player, this guy named Chris Butcher, who is still doing stuff locally now. He kind of has his own band now, and we're all friends and stuff. Everything's cool. Actually, we're playing a show with him coming up here.
That's cool. Cool.
So basically I was friends with them, and I'd played a few shows with them. We even did an Eagles tribute set where I was an extra lead guitar player, and that was awesome. Super duper fun. We did like the actual, like the Hotel California thing live, me and Chris, and
it's great.
Did all kinds of like trading licks and things like that. And about 4.5 years ago, I got a call from Chris, and he said, "Hey, there's this gig I can't make," and he didn't make it to that one. And then they were sort of like, we don't really know what's going on with Chris, and they're like, would you be down to do another gig with us? And I'm like, yeah. And they're kind of like, yeah. So Chris kind of like quit basically. So we need a guitar player, and we have to go to Europe in about 4 months and play the biggest show we've ever played.
Oh wow! Oh man,
that is like
pressure.
I guess I'll do it.
Wow,
that's
and,
awesome.
And I had wanted to be in a legit touring band, but I just didn't really have it together with anybody. I'd done some tours here and there, and small time stuff with other local bands, kind of going out to like Arizona and Colorado and things like that, but never like going to Europe or anything like that. So it was sort of like a trial by fire thing. It was sort of like, all right, here's the tunes, we're going to rehearse for the next 2 months, and you have basically a whole style to learn, because I'd never done what I'm more familiar with now, which is I use like a slide on the pinky finger and do hybrid slide standard playing, which is a big part of the sound. And I'd never done that before, so it was sort of like teaching myself how to do this thing, and it worked out, and the tour manager seemed to like it, and all the fans seemed to like it out in Europe, and it stuck, and it seemed like I'd passed the audition. So, and here we are 4 years later.
Oh, and, man.
Wow. What a killer story, man. That's great.
Yeah, it was pretty insane, man. It was sort of like, okay, I guess I'm in this band now that I like kind of idolized for, the last couple of years. I guess I'm their guitar player now. This is weird.
That's crazy. What a great story. But that's kind of amazing. So it sounds like you were kind of playing around in the scene. Like, what's your background? Like, how did you get into this scene?
I went to high school at Huntington Beach High School,
which
is actually right down the street.
There.
Yeah, I grew up here. Yeah, I actually live really close to where I went to high school at the moment.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But there was a music program at the high school that I was enrolled in, it was like an extracurricular program, because I had started playing guitar around 6th or 7th grade and got into all the, Led Zeppelin and Hendrix and all that stuff, Van Halen. My dad showed me Eruption when I was about 12, and it
Awesome.
just completely destroyed my brain. And I was
like you and everybody else, right?
As
I
it
didn't
does.
know
Yeah.
you could do that, as it does. I didn't know you could do that with a guitar. I'd never heard that before, and I was like, I gotta get me one of those. And they were gracious enough to get me an electric guitar for Christmas. And shortly afterwards, I started taking lessons from this guy, John Sawson, who is still touring. And I think he just did a tour with Casey Musgraves playing as one of her
wow.
players.
Yeah,
She's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned from him for the first couple years, and then kind of I was I almost failed high school because I was playing guitar too much. So they were like, all right, no more lessons. Like, you need to like focus on school so you don't drop out. And
Really? Yeah.
so basically, I was in this extracurricular program in high school for music, and I just sort of really came into my own through it. My director was very supportive, and for my senior year, I even directed one of the shows we did. We did 3 shows a year that we would rehearse, and we would do about 2.5 to 3 hours of material. And there were like 100 kids in the program that would, each kid would kind of get the singers would each get their own feature on one song, and then all the instrumentalists would play for about 2 or 3 songs. And my senior year, we did this thing called Retro Festival, which was like all the hippie music, 67 to like 70. Buffalo Springfield, The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, Crosby, Stills and Nash, all that good stuff.
Oh, nice.
And that was like my final, senior project, basically, was as the musical director for that show.
That's awesome. That's killer. So there you go. So you ended up doing great in school in the end.
Well, the funny thing about that too is we one of the songs we did was Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix, and the tech team figured out how to sync up this screen behind us to a click track with the music. So it was the footage of Jimi Hendrix playing Hey Joe at Monterey Pop, and it's the one where he plays with his teeth. So I was like, I got to do that now. Like, I have to do that now. So I played the solo with my teeth, not well, but I did the thing.
Oh, that's crazy.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
It impressed everybody. And I had like missed a bunch of school because I was going through some stuff at the time. And I go to the office. I have like, I think there's about 6 weeks left of school, and I have like 11 Saturday schools racked up from and not going to school. And the office of the lady, she looks at me, and immediately her face lights up, and she goes, "Oh, you were so good in that show. Let's see if we can help you out." Goes through, select all Saturday schools, delete.
Wow.
Oh, see.
Very nice.
Show really paid off, man. That's
very
great.
nice. So then after high school, you just were in the scene. You were
I was
doing
just I started a band with a couple of my friends, and and we just would book any, it's that early time in life when you're you just want to play, and so we'd play anywhere. And we started playing at dive bars, and just kind of going out on a limb and inviting other older local bands to play with us. And through that, we sort of met, people that know, you really kind of, it all comes down to meeting 1 or 2 people. And then it's just this proliferation of meeting all these different people. And so within, I would say a 1.5 to 2 years after that, I had already been very, well connected in the Orange County music scene. And among those people were the guys in Robert Jon and the Wreck. So and it all, everybody knows each other, and it's kind of the rock scene is sort of like
rock,
that.
tight rock scene. So you mentioned that your style is very different now with what you play with the band with Robert Jon and the Wreck. What was your style? What were you kind of playing beforehand, and how difficult was it to kind of transition to that?
So I mean, I've always been a rock focused player. I would always consider myself a rock player above, say, like a blues player or something like that, just in terms of the way I approach the instrument and the way I perform. I've always been really big on trying to make a show out of things and use the stage within reason, of course. So the first band I played in out of high school we had a group called Kaleidoscope, and we spelled it wrong on purpose because we thought it would be cool to combine the word collision with kaleidoscope, like the psychedelic thing.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Kaleidoscope, and it was kind of like a psychedelic, like it was very influenced by the Doors, and it had we had like some Zeppelin-y kind of stuff, we had some kind of Hendrixy kind of stuff. It was all sort of in that melting pot of classic rock sort of stuff, but kind of psychedelic, just a 4-piece. I played guitar, we had a singer, bass player, and a drummer, and
that's great.
I started off in that, and then I had already sort of started delving into kind of more like jazz fusion stuff. I was getting into progressive rock and like Frank Zappa and Stevie Wonder and things like that.
Yeah.
And learning solos from that music, learning riffs and licks and ideas and things like that, really diving into that sort of subgenre of music, and started writing my own music kind of just personally. And the first band I was in kind of fell apart. And then I was kind of playing in more sort of country influenced stuff. I was
interesting.
Called Professor Columbo. That was sort of like, we had kind of a garage rock thing going on, but we also played like country songs in like a rock style. And we even did a set for one of those Halloween shows where we played all Lynyrd Skynyrd tunes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's cool.
So I learned like the Freebird solo with another guitar player. So we actually played, how it's double tracked in the studio.
Yes.
We actually did the live double tracked Freebird solo. And we were like
wow.
doing
That's
like, go to the next
awesome.
one. Do the next one. doing it. It was really cool. It was with this guitar
awesome.
player, Alex
That's awesome.
Bowe, in the scene. And it was super duper fun. So I was kind of absorbing, interestingly enough, all these influences that would go on to kind of pay off. I was learning how to play slide guitar in one way before I joined the band, and the next thing I know, it's sort of like a culmination of all this sort of things. And I've been pretty adamant about hanging on to my stylistic influences in terms of like, bringing kind of a psychedelic edge to the guitar sounds and guitar styles and riffs and things like that to this band. And it doesn't seem to be unappreciated. I've gotten compliments from people, and people, notice like, oh, you're kind of like more of a psychedelic guy than Chris was. Not in like a, any one thing is better than the other, but just my approach is very influenced from that world, probably more so than the average like Southern rock band, right?
Yep. No, I think we definitely hear that on this, because you're playing on this latest album. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Is that you want? Yeah.
The three most recent records. So
okay,
the first record I did with Robert Jon on the Wreck was "Take Me Higher," and then "Last Light on the Highway," and then the most recent one, "Shine a Light on My Brother."
"Last Light on the Highway" to me is such a masterpiece album. I really love that record. Yeah,
thank you very much, man.
Your guitar playing is just, I love it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Thanks, man.
I'm actually, I got to tell you, Henry, I'm pretty surprised, because like the slide playing that we're hearing, and it is odd because as a guitar player, I'm always trying to figure out what the heck you guys are doing, on albums, as you probably do as well. And like, I think it's like on "Shine a Light on Me Brother," like the first track, I'm like, the solo comes in and it's like, wait a minute, that's not a slide solo, but it is. And it's like, oh, it's like a hybrid thing that he's doing. Yeah. So when you said that, and what's really funny about you saying that as well, as the other guy that plays like that is Scott Holiday, who's from Huntington Beach too, isn't he?
He is.
What is it, a Huntington Beach thing?
He lives like a couple blocks down from me, actually.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah. I loved watching him. So, I haven't seen you guys live, but we're going to have to come and see you guys live at some point, because it's amazing to watch that kind of playing. Cause it's just something that like, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
You guys are doing it. And I'm like, wow, I'm not a great slide player. I can barely play slide. So it's like slide just amazes me in general. So and then when you guys do it hybrid, it's like, it's just amazing. But it creates this kind of a different sound. That is really kind of a unique thing. And I think it's awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's all great. So you basically like got into, did you go right into kind of in a kind of just doing, did you just do did you get yourself into bands that are original bands, or did you do like the cover band thing?
I've done both, and not in any particular linear sequence of events. I've kind of like flip flop between doing both.
Oh, you have?
and
Okay,
and
all
a
right.
mix.
Okay.
I would play at this place in Long Beach, and I would always like find like last minute bass players and drummers, and my
Okay.
set list would be all covers,
Okay.
but it would be like blues stuff. So it's like, oh, it's just a 1-4-5, or it's like a song that has like a verse and a chorus, and there's like 4 chords in the whole song.
Okay. Okay.
and
All right.
and it would be like we'd play like Neil Young, Down by the River. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's relatively easy enough, and then I can kind of like do this, but like we're going back to the top, or like
Yeah.
this is the end of the song, just improvising basically sets of music,
Yeah.
3.5 hours of music.
Yeah.
But because I have the lyrics in front of me, and we're just kind of being background music, it's kind of a fun place to sort of, and when you've got good guys backing you up, just kind of go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So we do like Down by the River by Neil Young for like 15 minutes. And it'd just be like, with a trio, right? So it'd just be like, I'd just be like playing a lick, and then all of a sudden we're in a completely different groove, and it's this whole,
Yeah, it's so
get
yeah,
the
it was
right
just,
guys on it.
yeah, it was just kind of an improv thing, loosely based
Yeah.
around some covers. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
and
okay.
I've done more tight cover bands where we do
Yeah.
it like the record as well. I've even done some bass gigs for cover bands.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
and I was actually playing drums as well at one point.
Oh wow.
Oh wow,
Now,
geez.
do you guys do any covers consistently when you guys play? When you guys
so,
tour?
So when we tour, we actually pretty much forget about the covers, interestingly enough, unless like it's like a request or something like that, or somebody at a like excuse me, this last tour when we were in Europe back in September, at one of the shows, I guess one of the promoters had passed away, or one of the people in charge of directing the show had passed away, and they requested that we play Simple Man by Leonard Skinner in his memory. So that's
okay.
like one instance of that.
Yeah.
But
But it's
basically
not-
the only other time we'll pull out covers is if we have to do like a long bar set or something like that. But even
Okay.
in that event, a lot of times we'll just go through the back catalog and play, whatever originals we kind of have, because we have so many originals at this point that we play that it's
Yeah, there's lots of material you guys can
Yeah.
pick from.
Yeah, there's
So,
not really a
Exactly.
need for that. Yeah, okay, that's
There's not.
interesting. Yeah, but
Yeah.
so okay, so you kind of done it all, and your
Yeah.
career kind of leading up to this
Right.
band and doing it all. Yeah, because it's always interesting to me how like players evolve. Like a lot
Mhm.
of people, cut their teeth playing covers, and then they get into original bands. But it sounds like you kind of did a little bit of everything, and then
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I was writing my own riffs or coming up with my own ideas pretty shortly after. Like, obviously every guitar player learns how to play by learning, or for
Yeah.
the most part, you know what I mean? The vast majority of us, when we pick up an electric guitar, we're going to learn like Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana or something like that.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
like that was that was the coolest thing ever. Like, I remember how I felt when I was like, oh my God, I can play Nirvana right now. Like I can play like the power chords and do like, I'm playing like a song, I'm doing it. Like, and, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't long after learning how to play riffs that I was sort of like kind of coming up with my own stuff and
Sure.
sort of recording ideas and things like that. I had a computer. I figured out how to use recording software pretty early on.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Wow. So you
yeah,
pretty
so
much
it's-
got right into. You pretty much got right. You were right into the original game. So
Yeah, I think so. I would say
Yeah.
pretty early on, and
Yeah.
it's not like as soon as I did that, I was like, well, like I still to this day, if I hear a cool song, I'm like, oh man, let's learn that. I
Oh,
want to learn how
cool.
to play that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I always am trying to learn some new things, and if I hear it on something like, oh, that's even better than trying to make something up, I can just kind of rip this off, and it makes for a good Instagram
Yeah.
video or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's
I
right.
did this solo,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Now, how did that?
totally rips.
I'm sure the pandemic, like everybody else, gave you a lot of free time to kind of do that kind of stuff.
It,
How did you
it
guys?
did.
How did you guys get through the pandemic? Did it kind of spawn a lot of new material, or were you guys kind of just hanging out and doing your own thing? How'd you guys pass that time?
When everything first shut down in March of 2020, we did kind of do the thing everybody else was doing, where we sort of were like, all right, we'll work on stuff over Zoom and sort of like rehearse things. And I was going over to Steve's house at the time. I was living in Costa Mesa, Steve's house was right down the street from me. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go over there, and what's the worst that can happen? You know, we're just going to be in his house working on music. It's like, I need to do something, you know?
Yeah.
And about a month in, we just said, screw it. We're just going to do it. And we're going to get together and rehearse and do this thing. And, you know, if we get in trouble for it or whatever, so be it. Like, you know, we need to at least keep this thing moving so that,
totally,
you know, when things blow over, because they will, you know, we haven't lost any momentum. So we went pretty quickly into like working on just first rehearsing our material and staying tight. But we went pretty quickly into like writing new material, because we were like, well, there's no shows happening, so we might as well start writing stuff. And so Last Light on the Highway had already been recorded. We recorded Last Light right before actually the pandemic happened.
Oh, okay. All right.
And we had been kind of hanging on to it because we had intended to release it in our European tour that has since been postponed 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah. Right.
So we hung on to that for the sake of pushing it, and then we realized like we're not going to tour in support of this, basically, at least for another year or something like that. So we just said, here's some videos, here's some music you can listen to, here's some stuff you can stream, you can order some vinyl if you want. At the very least, it gives people some new music to listen to. And
so you got that's cool.
We got put on radio in the UK and things like that. We got placement on Planet Rock, which is like the big station out there. We had, I think, Oh Miss Carolina was on there for like 12 weeks or something like that on the A-list rotation.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and that
cool.
helped us out a lot out there.
I bet.
On the most recent tour.
Oh, okay.
What's so you guys have been to Europe a number of times. What is it like touring over there with the type of music you guys do? And it just seems like a lot of Europeans seem to like this style of music a lot. Like a lot of other similar bands seem to do very well in Europe. What's been your take when you guys have been over there?
Well, I think it goes back to the old blues guys, right? Because you had or even the rock and roll guys, you know, there was always a little bit more of an appreciation for jazz, blues, rock and roll, anything like that from, you know, all the stuff that had come from America over there. I think it just kind of goes back to that lineage, basically, where it's like we're sort of the next link in the chain in a way, basically. And there's just a different atmosphere, I think, culturally, in terms of like when you go to a concert, like you were going to the concert, you know, like people aren't really like on their phones as much. Maybe it is to like take a video or something like that, but they're like, especially in Germany, you know, all the guys have their beers in their hand and their arms are crossed, and they're really like
taking
you
it.
You can't tell if they're enjoying it or not, but they are. But they're very, you know, just the way that they conduct themselves as people. They're different like social norms and body language and things like that, and you can tell just from the vibe in the room. You can pick up from people's body language that they're more consciously, you know, they're like consciously like in the moment trying to, you know, get information from you or for lack of a better word, or like really enjoy the moment, really like take it all in. And they're, you know, just there's a little bit more respect, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I agree with that. Cause you know, if certainly everywhere, a lot of people deeply appreciate music, but I always feel like every time I've watched anything live anywhere in Europe, there's always like this, just some kind of a deeper thing going on with the audience and the band. It's a wild thing to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point, Henry, that like, it's like a continuation of the kind of the blues based kind of rock and roll that really a lot of, you know, bands in Europe, you know, made popular to some extent, even though, you know, but it's also American bands, like you said, that were incredibly successful, right? Like supposedly Hendrix was popular over there before he was popular over here, right? Like that's just a fact, right? So
that's how it is with so many bands too. So many rock and blues influenced bands tour over there. Even like I heard something funny about like Rage Against the Machine toured over there like 5 times before they even did anything big in the United States. You know? So it's like
interesting.
Just American bands in general are just, you know, there's a commodity for it out there, and people are, you know, kind of a constant demand for it.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So did you find that, like, at least as long as you've been in the band, have you found that it's like a harder kind of nut to crack in the States?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I don't know exactly what it is, but it's definitely a little bit harder to get people to come out.
Yeah.
And we're not selling quite as many tickets quite yet, but we're working on it. We're working on, getting a better promotion machine behind things. And I think we're going to start seeing some better stuff coming up here, which is exciting.
Yep. Well, yeah, there's something about that. We talk about this. We've talked about this quite a bit on the podcast. There's something about, at least in the States, about like as a band, live stuff in general, just it competes with kind of everything. I feel like Americans these days are happier, like staying home watching Netflix, right? It's odd. I think that's just across the, like, I play in a local cover band. It's like, we have the same thing. It's like, it's just hard to pull people out, it's like, you guys are going to have a good time. Like, come out and listen to this, and Dave and I, we go to shows as much as we possibly can. I think I got COVID at a show. Actually the Almond Family Revival. Oh no. which was incredible. Dave says it was impossible that I got it there. But anyway, I definitely got it just being out. Right. And, but I think that's right. I think like people are, especially now with the pandemic, it just makes it even, I think we saw it kind of leading up, and now even after the pandemic, it's like, now it's like, I guess we're still in the pandemic, but now it's like, you're even more up against it to some extent. Because people have retrenched in their kind of in their zones, but again, like, you guys are fighting the fight and you're bringing it. Like, we've seen some live stuff of you guys on YouTube, and you guys are bringing it. So you definitely have a lot to offer. So I think you guys keep doing it, and it's just going to keep growing like wildfire to some
Thanks,
extent.
man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting on the show, which is just awesome. It's just awesome, because I think, Dave, when you first told me about this band, it was one of the live shows, right, Dave? That I think you sent me, and I was like, "Whoa!"
That was the first thing I had seen.
Yeah, and the energy,
these guys are just crazy.
Yeah, the energy you guys had on stage, like that's what's going to bring the people out and keep them coming. Back. So, I did want to get into. It's actually not on our list of questions here, Dave. So don't get mad. But like the business side, it actually leads into like the business side of this, because that's another thing we like to talk about on the podcast, which is Spotify is somewhat killing the industry, not killing, but changing the industry to some extent.
Definitely.
Yeah. And if you have to rely on live and selling merch and vinyl and stuff like that, it gets a little more complicated. But like, how have you guys managed that? Like, I assume you have like management. Are you guys on a label, or are you independent?
We're independent on at the moment. We may be doing some stuff in the future, but at least at the moment, everything's been released independently so far.
That's awesome. So how does it work? Like, do you have a manager that you work with? Do you guys do it yourself?
We're in the process of transitioning, I think, some things over to some management at the moment. But up until this point, we've been self-managed. It's been all.
That's incredible. Oh man,
all in house, and I don't want anything to do with it. I said from the beginning, I was like. Like, you guys have your shit together on all the online, even before I was in the band. You guys, and they figured out, there's all this stuff, information flying back and forth. We have like a band text thread, and like half the time it doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm just like, oh, this isn't, I have this cool idea, or can you play this show? I don't care.
You're like, hey guys, I'm laying down the licks. Do you see what I'm doing with this pinky slide thing? Like, this is not easy.
Exactly, man.
That's right.
Come on, guys. That's what we need. We need like a T-shirt with like the pinky slide thing. I don't know. Gotta do something like that, because I think it's like it's one of the coolest things ever.
Thank you.
It's very cool. Okay, so that's interesting. So you guys are doing all yourself. So yeah, I think that's another thing that we've touched on in this podcast, which is like now it's possible. It's possible.
I'm like unfortunately, I'm like the worst person to talk to about that side of things, because I'm sure if you had Andrew or Warren on here, they could talk to you about all the details. But
we don't have to get into it.
I listen to them talk about it, and I'm there at the meetings when we talk about it. And it's like the Charlie Brown. And I want to know, like, I want to be helpful, but it's just my brain is just like I don't.
Yeah, no, hey,
you're just like thinking about riff. You got riff ideas going on in your head. You're not worried about that. Yeah.
It is.
Well,
my
that's
brain.
why.
Is just, yeah.
But it is cool that the guys have kind of figured it out, because it's such an, like, I can tell you, it's such an advantage if you can figure it out on your own and not have to rely on people. And like it seems like it served you guys well so far, you know.
Right.
Like one of the bands that we actually love, who's an independent band, is Dirty Honey. Do you know those guys?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And so they're a great example of an independent band that has really kind of blown up. You know, it turns out they have management that is like the guy that manages the Black Crows manages them. So like they have some advantages there.
They got some plugs.
Yeah, they got some plugs, but they're not on a label or anything. So they're kind of doing it on their own to some extent. But anyway,
I'm just, I think everyone in the band shares the sentiment. I'm just sort of skeptical of what, you know, a label on its own can really do for a band anymore. Because everybody I know that's on a label, the label doesn't really do much aside from just give you something to put your name on, or maybe help with distribution or something like that. And on our side of things, there's never really been any cause for us to justify, you know, we've talked to labels before, but they'll either drag their heels with us or, you know, kind of play games in a way. And it's sort of like, we don't, you know what I mean? We just want to do our thing. And how are you actually going to do something helpful for us? You know, because we've already got a machine going here.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it's a great perspective. And that, I think we're seeing that a lot with a lot of bands that are out there doing it, out there on the road. Like, you can do it. You don't need a label to do this. You can go in the studio and make great albums these days without like the backing of a major label or even a small label. So it's actually amazing to see. Okay, so that's interesting. I won't get any more deeper into that. I'm just kind of interested where you guys stand on that. But you know,
I got to ask you about some gear now, right?
Yeah, I think we're gonna transition in the gear, but yeah. So I don't know, maybe like we'll talk about what you're doing live. Like, what's the rig live?
Okay, well, so I actually have this here.
Oh,
I brought this up. I don't know how well this is going to translate.
Oh, the board. I love that.
This is the guy.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple toys on here and this is like the live board right now.
Very cool.
If I can.
What do you want to do?
Trying to like do a rundown.
Yeah, you want to
do that? Yeah,
I'd love this is awesome. If you know what to do, like hold it up, like that, and then we can grab that on the camera. Yeah,
it's a little awkward, but so this is an Exotic Effects XW1 wah. I actually just got this on the board.
Awesome.
It's really versatile.
Yeah,
and it sort of has that. It's really the wah sound that's in my head. It's like that Cream, like Tales of Brave Ulysses kind of vibe.
Yes.
It's really got that like old school, you know, Clyde wah thing. And then this is a Wampler Plexi Drive.
The Plexi Drive. That is a killer pedal.
Great pedal.
It's so good, dude.
It
changed the game for me big time. And I have this on the whole time.
Oh, you do?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is on all night. Okay. I literally just, you know, if it's off, I literally have it on no matter what, basically.
And how do you have it set?
Yeah,
you get a lot of gain on there?
You know what? I usually have it around noon across the board.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's got these two switches on it. So one of them is like a mid/gain boost. I think the manual said that it actually brings in like the circuit from this pedal, which is a Wampler Tumnus. Which is
we love the Tumnus.
That's like the pedal. We love that pedal.
that's the best pedal. It's so good.
It's so good.
But I leave that off, at least at the moment. I've gone in and out of phases of having it on, having it off. And then there's like a bass switch that just gives you a little more bass thump. It's supposed to emulate like a 412.
Yep. Sure.
This is a really fun one. This is the Walrus Kangra. So one side of it has like a Octavia fuzz circuit. Awesome. And I like using that on power chords. Because it really makes it sound big and woofy and nasty. And this is like a envelope filter on the other side. So it has both in one pedal, basically.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Check that out.
Hey, Dave, I'm surprised you don't have that pedal. But
I'm going to have to buy all these now. Well, I have a Tumnus. Otherwise, I don't think I have anything else on your board.
Yeah. This is my newest acquisition. This is a Keeley Fuzzbender.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And it just kind of sounds like it blows your amp up, basically. I think it it kind of sounds like a tone bender.
Yep.
And I collect a bunch of fuzz pedals. I think I have 9 fuzz pedals now.
Oh, okay.
That I just kind of rotate in and out depending on how I'm
Nice.
feeling. I really like fuzz face pedals too. I have
But
a
the
few fuzz face
circuit.
clones.
Nice. Well, we can hear, we can definitely hear that in your playing. It's like this guy likes fuzz. I think we might
I
have
do.
said that. We said like we were like Henry's going to come on. We got to talk about fuzz.
Oh yeah, I got them all scattered around in here, so I can talk about those more in depth
Yeah.
and how much I love them.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Tumnus,
Yeah.
which I actually use as a solo boost.
Oh, you
that's
do?
Like my,
interesting. Okay,
That's
yeah.
a great use
Interesting.
for it.
Yeah.
So do you
Yeah.
do you do like the gain down and volume up thing, or do you just
Yeah. Generally,
Awesome.
depending on what I'm working with, depends
Yeah.
on where the amps. But this pedal is actually really loud. It has like so much output on it.
Yeah, they're crazy like that. Yeah.
Yeah, just to get to like Unity, you got to have the volume. I can't remember which one's the volume. I think it's.
Is it the
This
one?
one?
Yeah,
I think it's this one. You have to have it like way down just to be at like Unity gain or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And then this is a Super Tremolo.
Cool.
I love this thing, and this little guy next to it is a DoD expression pedal. And if it were on, you would see that the light is changing speed.
Oh, so you're doing the tremolo speed with the
Yeah.
expression. Oh, that's very cool. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
very
And,
cool. Yeah.
when we play live, I like doing ramps with it, like kind of how like a Hammond organ player does with their Leslie.
Yes.
I sort of do ramps with the tremolo, and that's a lot of
very
fun.
Cool. Yeah. That's
And then being an absolute Hendrix nerd, I have to have a Univibe. So this is the full tone Deja vibe.
cool. And again,
And-
that's got the expression kind
Yeah.
of built in, obviously.
I saw that they made
Yeah.
one with the wah style thing, and I was like, yeah, I need to have that. Like, I
That's
can't just
very
do
cool.
that. I can't just like kick the knob like a lot of people do. I have to
Yeah. Oh,
have the
that's
pedal.
great. Oh, that's very cool.
And then this is a MXR carbon copy. I've had the same one for I think 10 or 11 years.
Wow. Classic.
And it has never failed me.
classic
I
pedal,
just love it, dude. I
That's a
honestly,
great pedal.
it's a great pedal.
Yeah, it really is.
It gets you what you need.
And I know you got a
Yeah.
JHS 3 series. Which one is that?
It's the reverb.
Oh, the
Just a
reverb.
reverb.
Very nice.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's just right there at the end. And I just, it's mostly there in the event that I maybe something goes wrong with the amp and I have to use a backline amp, or I just feel like using an amp that doesn't have reverb on it.
Yeah.
I just love having a little
Totally.
splash
Yeah, you
to
gotta
fill out the sound.
You gotta. Is that more like an always on thing for you when you don't have amp reverb? Or
Yeah, I have this on all the time, and I find myself switching it on anyways because it's honestly just a really great sounding reverb. Personally,
yeah. I haven't played that one, but yeah, those 3 series are great. I have the Fuzz, and the Fuzz is great.
Okay,
So I mean, it's like affordable and just awesome. So yeah,
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, check it out. Like JHS. No, I'm not a fuzz expert. I don't know what
Right.
Circuits it's based off of, whether it's a fuzz face or whatever tone
Right.
bender, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
it's very cool. It's very cool.
Okay,
So
I'll
you should check it out. But so what does that go into? Are you playing into clean amps most of the time? What are you playing into?
I try to have the amp set right on that edge.
Okay.
Like not too distorted. Because depending on the amp, that can often be the indicator of how much volume you have.
Sure. Yeah.
So I need to have headroom on whatever amp I'm using, because
Okay.
otherwise when I go for the solo boost, it's not going to get louder. It's just going to be more gain.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I always try to have the amp kind of right just as you're starting to hear some crispiness.
Nice.
That's ideally where I like to have it.
Yeah. Okay. And then you kick in that plexi drive, and that kind of it gives you like a set of gain, like a flavor of gain on top of that.
Flavor
Yeah.
of gain on top of it without the loudness.
Yeah. Wow.
And
that's
it just
really
it
cool.
just kind of sets the stage, and then that's why I have the tumness set later, because if I had it before, it'd just be boosting the plexi drive, so that way it's just giving me a nice big volume boost,
gives
basically.
you a little bit more, and then a little flavor too. That
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that little tumness.
It
flavor.
fattens it
Yeah.
up. It
Yeah.
really does, in a really good way. It has a really pleasant low mid kind of fatness to it that I don't hear in other clones.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I found it very appealing. I tried about 5 different, because Warren, our bass player, actually has a Klon.
Oh,
And
really?
I completely fell in love with it. I was like,
Well,
yeah. I was like, and that's a whole crazy story about how he has that, but that's basically something his dad got back in the 90s. And
Wow.
One day he was just like, oh, here's this old pedal, and Warren has all these pedals, and one of them's a Klon his dad had, and
So crazy. So
that is
he's hanging on to it.
So have you played it? Like, have you played through it? So it does live up to the hype, in your opinion.
It's on the records. It's
it
on,
is. That's
all
what I hear.
over Last
Cool.
Night on the Highway. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
But the kicker is I did the Pepsi challenge after I bought the Tumnus, and I told Warren to turn his back, and I said, I'm gonna play pedal number 1, I'm gonna play pedal number 2, and he turned around laughing. He goes, I can't tell the difference, man.
Oh wow,
that's incredible. That's
great.
That's amazing. I don't know.
I literally
if
can't tell the difference.
I don't know if anybody was willing to admit that. Anybody that has paid like the current prices for a Klon. So that's that's a great story.
You know, you might be able to hear some differences in individual pedals too, but for our purposes, and also, you know, you'll probably only hear those when it's, you know, the guitar by itself or something like that. Like once you get into a full band setting and there's all sorts of other stuff going on, is there really like a practicality there? Does it really make that big of a difference? I don't think so.
Right. Probably not.
So what, like, if you had to like pick an amp to play through, like your ideal amp, what would it be? Would it be like a Fender amp? Would it be a Marshall that's set more? I
love Marshalls.
Okay.
I'm a big Marshall fan.
Okay.
I really like, I have this amp currently that I've been running. That's it's kind of a clone of the low wattage, like the 20 watt Marshall heads.
Yes.
So it just has 2 channels, a bright channel and normal channel, and then like a tone knob. And I always do the Y cable, so I can kind of do the, you know,
the jump,
whatever, the gain staging thing. I really like Fender Bassman, like the 59 Bassman, the 410. I really like those too. So yeah, but I mean, those are the basis for what became Marshalls anyways. So it's
they totally are, yeah.
And I played a Bassman on this this cruise we just did, the Keeping the Blues Alive at Sea cruise, and I was like, oh, I might have to get one of these.
Yeah. Well, can you talk about? Well, I want to hear about your. Let's talk about your guitars then, and then maybe we can close it out with Keeping Blues Alive.
Yeah, of course, man. Sure.
Talk about your guitars. Like, what's your number one?
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna do something real quick. I'm gonna just grab it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have it here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Exciting.
Yeah, this is very cool. It's like our own little rig rundown on the podcast.
This is the first rig rundown on this podcast, so this is exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it. Back. I kind of see it.
So this is
my
current number one.
Yes.
Boom. And this is actually an Epiphone Firebird.
Get out of here.
Oh, interesting.
It's an Epiphone Firebird. And it was made in the old year of 2020.
Yeah.
Wow. And the reason why I got it was because I thought, you know, I've always been fascinated by the Firebird.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, everybody's saying this is a real neck through. So, and that's the thing that makes the Firebird what it is.
Yeah.
You got to have the whole neck through thing. And I got it and I was like, yeah, this is all one piece or 9 pieces or whatever it is, but it's, you know,
it all comes through.
It's a neck through. Yeah. And,
that's awesome.
It just felt great immediately.
Oh, that's great.
In my hands, it felt like home right away. And I wasn't impressed with the pickup, so I had these Seymour Duncan mini humbuckers, and they're just like the vintage low output ones.
Yep. Those are that's awesome.
I had a set of these made for another guitar that they didn't sound great in. And these were actually supposedly made or wound by MJ, which is the lady that does she'll do like Jimmy Page and Slash's.
Yeah, I've heard about her. Yeah,
MJ. So these are MJ winds.
Cool.
And threw them in, and it just turned this thing into a beast.
That's awesome.
Immediately. And then I really like these bridges. They're made by Graphtec.
Oh,
Graphtec bridges.
Okay, yeah.
And the saddles are made out of the tusk material.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And then this is the Duesenberg Les Trem.
Oh, I was going to ask what trem is on there, man.
Yeah,
that's not the Vibrolo. Oh, those are cool, and it stays in tune. It does pretty well because those Duesenbergs.
I've been having some issues with it, to be honest with you. Recently, okay. When I first put it on, it was great. Yeah. But recently, I've been having some issues with it, so I got to get it looked at.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the beast. It happens. I'm sure these are are, this thing worked great for me for a long time, but I may have just over abused it possibly.
Hey, you're out there playing, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. But I love it because you don't have to do anything. You can just put it right on the studs. You don't have to do anything to the guitar.
No
just
more drilling and everything. Yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome.
So this has been my number one, and I pick up other guitars, and even guitars I've had for way longer, and I love them, but then I pick this thing up and I'm like, I don't feel the need to play anything else, because it's not only does it feel great, but it's actually extremely versatile. You can get a lot of sounds out of these guitars.
Sure.
The mini humbuckers are probably my favorite pickup.
Really? Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, great. Yeah, you're just into that sound. Well, I mean, is that what we're hearing on the records too?
So this is actually
that was 20.
This has actually not been on any recordings yet.
Oh, it hasn't. Okay, all right.
Yeah, the last slide on the Highway guitar, the main guitar for that was an SG Special.
Oh, okay.
With mini humbuckers in it. I don't have that in the room with me right now.
Okay,
but
that's okay.
if you see any recent videos, that's the one I have tuned to open E.
Okay.
And
okay. Yeah.
I'm doing songs like Old Friend and Don't Let Me Go on that guitar.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that's the one where those are the songs where I definitely utilize more of the pinky slide thing.
It's
in an open tuning.
Yeah, we wanted to ask you about that actually. Do you do a lot of your slide work in open tuning, or are you doing some in standard? How does it work?
Every song that I play in open E, I use a slide on.
Okay.
And I use a slide on about maybe 2 or 3 songs that I play in standard tuning.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, that's another thing, like slide in standard tuning, like I just can't I don't know what the heck's going on.
It's different. It's a different beast. I think ultimately it's definitely harder because there's less bar shapes involved with it.
Yeah.
But I think it's easier to kind of develop your own sound that way. And we do have a couple songs where I do use the slide, the hybrid thing that I talked about, where I'm playing licks and then switching between slide.
Okay.
But Shine a Light on Me Brother, the song is an open E song, so I do the switching between standard licks and slide playing and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can hear that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was on that album? What guitar were you playing on that album?
So that was that SG that I just talked about.
Okay.
It was a lot of a Strat. I used a Strat a lot on Shine a Light on Me Brother. And then I'm going to grab this. Let's see if I can just reach it. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is.
Oh yes, that's I think we saw you with that. We watched some shows you with some stuff on YouTube, and maybe you had that guitar, I think.
Yeah. So this is just a 2004 SG Gibson SG standard.
Yeah. Awesome.
61 reissue. But the thing about this guitar is I had these pickups put in that are made by my friend Sully out in France. I'm not sure what part of France he's in, but he works on vintage pickups, and he makes various different models of vintage style pickups. And these are like PAFs, basically just like slightly overwound PAFs that he hit me up actually in the middle of the pandemic and was like, what kind of pickups do you like, or what kind of pickups do you need right now? If you could get some pickups. And I'm like, I kind of need some better pickups for this new SG I got. And he's like, oh, I just sent it to you. I'm like, oh, I didn't buy anything. He's like, no, they're for you. Like, I want you to have them.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he
just sent me, man.
He sent me 2 boxes of his pickups, and
incredible.
And so I put those in this thing, and it just took the tone on it through the roof completely.
And the trim on that, you said that's a 61 kind of reach.
Yeah.
So that's like the Vibrola.
This is a Bigsby.
Oh, it's a bit. Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. It's a Bigsby.
No, yeah, it's my bad. It came to me with the stop tail. I bought it from another friend of mine who plays in another band, and he had sort of retired it basically, and he made like an Instagram post and was like, I'm selling this SG. And at the time he actually lived like right across the street from me, so I just walked over there. I was like, hey, can I come like check it out? And I checked it out. I was like, oh, I gotta have it. Like, and he gave it to me for a really good price. And still to this day, I'm like, dude, I think I think you lost. Like,
I think
I'm
you made a
sorry, like,
mistake.
Yeah,
this guitar is great. Like, I'm sorry.
whoops.
And he'll still like see pictures of it on my Instagram or whatever, and he'll be like, I miss that guitar. I'm like, I bet you do, man. Sorry.
That's so great.
Too late
That's
now.
cool.
Yeah.
And the Bigsby you like though, that's staying in tune for you. No issues with
It's
the Bigsby.
good. Not really. It's pretty solid actually. And I
know-
don't really use it too much. And the other
Okay.
thing too is you can't really do anything too crazy with the Bigsby. Like it
Yeah, you
doesn't
can't
really
like
do
dive bomb it. Yeah.
yeah.
I know it's a pain in the neck to change strings with the Bigsby.
So that's the best part about it is it doesn't have to be, because I got this little Vibromate guy.
Oh yes, I've heard about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I heard about these through Scott. I was watching an interview where he was
Okay.
talking about them.
Okay.
And he was like, oh, these things. And I remember putting the Bigsby on the other SG, was the first guitar I had this Bigsby on.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a pain in the ass.
It's terrible.
I'm not
Yeah,
going
it's
to do
terrible.
this. I'm not going to do this every time I have to change strings.
Yeah.
So I just went ahead and ordered it, and I was like, I think it's called a spoiler. And I just was
spoiler.
like,
Okay.
okay, I don't care. I'm never not having a Bigsby without this thing. Like,
Have you seen, if you're a Bigsby fan, have you seen the Bigsby pedal? Have you seen this thing?
no.
Game Changer Audio. I think they got it licensed from a Fender who owns the Bigsby name now, I guess. And it's like a pedal. It's like a foot pedal that looks like a Bigsby and like does the kind of tremolo thing.
Oh,
Vibrato.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you should check it out.
Crazy.
Like Game Changer Audio.
Yeah, it was a real Bigsby deal when it came out.
Well, we didn't warn you that we have dad jokes on Guitar Dads.
I
Yeah,
kind
sorry.
of figured.
But Dave thought
the
it was. But Dave, you thought that was a dumb idea, that pedal. But maybe it's a cool idea.
No, I thought it was a joke when you first sent it to me, but it's a real thing.
it's a real pedal.
Yeah.
The Game Changer Audio. Yeah, so they're awesome. Yeah. So Henry, tell us about tell us what it was like on this, Keeping Blues Alive cruise. Have you guys done a cruise before? Or?
So we've done 3 of these same.
Oh, you have
cruises.
done 3 of them. Okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was our third one. Just I guess that was almost a month ago now, which is crazy because it feels like we just got off the boat still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The first one we did was back in 2019 in August, and we flew to Barcelona, and the cruise took us to what was it? Monaco, and Valletta, Malta.
Oh wow.
And those were like, I still can't believe I went to those places. It was like,
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
huh?
I'm sure.
I've
it's
never
over there.
been there, so yeah,
it was
that sounds
wild.
great.
I guess they've filmed some Game of Thrones scenes on Malta.
Oh
and I
yes,
totally
that's
got
right.
that vibe. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's really cool.
So that was completely obscene and ridiculous. And then the next one we did was actually right before everything got shut down. We just squeezed it in. It was at the end of February of 2020. We did one in Miami that went to the Bahamas, and it was great, and got to do all the fun stuff, and and then we got back on March 1st from that whole tour basically, and then we basically had 2 weeks, and then everything was shut down, and
Wow.
So we got really lucky as far as the time frame for that one.
Yep.
And that was again really fun. I mean, it's so cool to hang with the different artists and things like that, and getting to jam with people and sit in on people's sets. And this most recent one was probably the best one yet, I would say.
Yep. Oh, really? Okay, great. Awesome.
So we actually did our own all-star jam where we sent on an email prior, a couple of weeks or maybe a month or so prior to actually getting on the boat, to some of the different musicians, and had Six Man, which is the company that sort of helps staff the event team for these cruises.
Yep.
Kind of reach out to all the different artists to see who was interested. And we got a really good response. We got a lot of people getting back to us, and there was actually some pretty big names. So we got to play with Jimmy Vivino. We got to play with Eric Gales. We got to play with
wow.
Chubby, Vanessa Collier, amazing saxophone player.
Awesome.
A couple other people, Jeremy Albino, who's a I guess he's our buddy now after playing with him. I'd never heard of him before that, but it was cool. He played some harp with us, and
it's awesome.
so yeah, I got to do a kind of a guitar duel, I guess, with Eric Gales, which is like totally
okay.
We got to hear. We have to hear about this.
Tell us about that. How did
So it was pretty great because we sent this email out, obviously, and you know, it was sort of like going out on a limb. It felt like, because we sort of feel like the small fish in this thing, and we actually are on the same booking agency as Eric Gales, Intrepid Artists, as we share a booking agent. So I'm sure that might have had something to do with it, but it was really cool to hear, like, you know, I showed up to rehearsal and they're like, oh, Eric said he wants to do the last 2 songs with us, which was going back to us talking about doing covers. This was one of the only times we've actually done covers on, you know, an out of town date, and the whole set was covers, you know, just to make it easy for people to jump in on stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So Eric Gales joined us for a rendition of JJ Cale's Cocaine, as made famous by Eric Clapton.
By Clapton, yeah.
And Red House by Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, wow.
Are there videos of this floating around?
I believe so.
On
I
YouTube?
think if you look up like Keeping the Blues Alive at Sea, 7 or 2022, you'll probably find 1 or 2 in there.
So we'll
definitely, we will have to check that out.
We saw Eric in December because he was part of the Allman Family Revival, and he just like I that was the first time I saw him live, and I was pretty blown away by the whole.
Oh yeah, he's insane.
He's just such a monster, right? I mean, were you just like blown away playing with them? Like,
yeah, it was a blast, and he was super encouraging, and he, you know, had so many nice things to say to me after the fact, and we got a picture together, and you know, he kept coming up to me being like, oh, you're badass. And like, I was like, dude, you're badass. What the fuck? Like,
what the fuck? No, but you are, man. Listen to those albums.
Seriously.
He must listen. You should listen to your albums too. He's it's some badass playing on those albums, man.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So that sounds like such a great time. Like Dave and I always joke about we're going to get on one of these cruises, but like we could never convince our wives to go on them.
I'm sure.
That's a tough ask.
Yeah, we did that, and so, you know, this cruise is put on by Joe Bonamassa.
Yeah,
right.
We got an email from Jimmy Vivino's manager, basically asking if anybody wanted to jump in on Jimmy Vivino's All-Star Jam, because he did like an All-Star Jam too.
Oh, great.
And of course I said yes. I was like, of course I'm going to play with Jimmy Vivino. Are you kidding me? Like, that would be awesome. Amazing. And so it was on the pool deck, which is like the big stage on the cruise ship. And and Joe's up there and Kebmo's up there, and I'm like, oh, they're going to get off the stage eventually. And I'm like, they're still up there. They're still up there. Why are they still up there? And then my song comes on, and they, you know, invite me up the stage, and I'm like looking at Joe, and Kebmo's right behind me, and like Jimmy Vivino's right there. I'm like, this is insane, dude. You gotta be kidding me.
So did you play that? So you played the song with Joe and Kebmo?
I did, and and I didn't expect Jimmy to do this. He kind of just let me take like an intro solo, and he was singing. It's called the song called "It Hurts Me Too," made famous by Elmore James. I don't know if he wrote it or not, but it's like an old Elmore James tune. Slow blues, and I take the first 2 solos, and then he finishes, you know, his verse or whatever. He goes back, and Joe's over here, and then he goes, you know, knock yourselves out, guys, and just lets us like. And I was like, what? No.
Wow,
not ready for this.
So cool. That's so cool.
So I got to trade courses with Joe, and that was pretty insane too.
Pretty cool. How was Joe to play?
Oh, he's super nice, man. He was very, very cool dude. I got to chat with him a little bit after the fact and talk about guitars and amps and things like that. He's a very, very nice
he's
guy.
Got a lot. He's got a lot to talk about with that stuff.
Did he let you play any of his bursts?
He let me he let me screw around on one of his strats. He had a 55 Strat he calls the Crescent Moon Strat.
Oh, okay. And, awesome.
It's a 6-pound Strat. It was like the lightest Strat I've ever seen.
Wow.
Like, yeah. With the trem too, with the tremolo.
Well,
wow, that's light.
Wow.
He was like, check it out. This is my 55. I'm like,
that must be insane. Like Joe, does Joe like bring his whole thing? Like, does he have like all the million guitars?
He has probably
on the cruise?
At least 12. He brings his whole rig on the cruise.
Jeez.
I asked him about it. He's
Wow.
like, I have my whole rig on
Like
stage here.
like the dumbbells and everything. Oh
Yep,
my god!
his 3 dumbbells, his 2
Yeah.
Marshall Silver Jubilees, his
the
2
Jubes.
high
Yeah.
power twins.
Yeah,
He has the whole rig up there.
he's got the whole thing.
Oh
up
my
there.
god.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so great. That's awesome. Well,
it's
I mean,
absurd.
talk
Yeah.
about a live tone. Like he's just
His
it's like- it's a
his
thing
live
to
tone is
behold.
amazing.
yeah. So
amazing.
so on stage was his whole rig up there when you were up
Not
there?
for the
Okay.
jam.
Okay,
but
all
for
right.
his sets. I think he was
Yeah.
just plugging into one Fender Twin.
Because I always wondered like how he plays like with another guitar player in his jams. Like how do they hear themselves over his rig? Like wouldn't it be you'd have to stand like right next to your amp.
Well,
you
he's
couldn't
got
move.
like a switching system going on. So I think when other guys are playing, he switches
probably-
to the he
Oh,
probably
okay.
shrinks it down so it's less amps or a quieter version of whatever it is.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
that
Yeah,
would
yeah.
make sense.
He's got a crazy switching setup going on that I didn't quite fully comprehend, but he switches between different combinations of
Yeah.
the 7 amps he has on stage.
I think he has like a Leslie cabinet up there too.
He
doesn't
does.
He,
He
yeah,
does, yep.
Yeah. Completely insane.
Yeah.
That must have been so cool though to be part of that. So
It was
that's
wild,
great.
man.
That's great for you guys. That's so good.
That's amazing.
yeah, like Dave, these
great
cruises-
stories too.
These cruises sound incredible. We got to get on.
They
one of
are.
these
We do need.
cruises.
We have to get on one of these.
We gotta
cruises one of
cover
these
this
days.
for the
They're so fun,
podcast.
man. They're so much fun.
We're just
really
gonna
are.
we're just gonna tell our wives that it's just podcast research and we need to
Right.
go.
Right.
So
yeah.
we're gonna figure it out. But Henry, I know we're running up on time. We really appreciate your coming on.
No problem, man. My pleasure.
This is just really exciting for us, and we wish you guys all the success in the world.
Thanks,
and
man.
Continued success with the band, and we can't wait to see the new stuff you guys are going to put out. Here you guys get stuff coming out anytime soon, or
I
know
think
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure when, but I'm pretty sure we do.
Okay, great.
And you guys are hitting Europe for a few months. And do you guys have any U.S. dates when you come back? Already on the books?
Yeah, we're gonna be hitting the road in the States in August, and I believe through September, and I believe later on in the year around November we're gonna have some stuff going on. So we'll
Are you
probably
guys-
have an announcement for that coming out
Okay, cool.
Are
at
you
some
guys?
point in the near future.
That's awesome. Do you guys make it to the East Coast at all?
I hope so. I hope we
Okay.
do.
Okay.
If we do, you guys will be the first to know.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
gotta come to the.
You gotta
I
come see
know
you guys.
it is like you guys, you bands that are kind of doing it. Sometimes you don't make it all the way over.
Yeah.
Like you hit
Mhm.
the south and maybe you don't kind of make the
Yep.
make the turn up the coast, but that's cool. You got to get the audience going. We're doing our best to get you the audience, so
Right.
hopefully we can do it. But that's really great, Henry. Okay,
Appreciate it, man.
Well, this has been really great. We really appreciate your time and coming.
I
on.
appreciate you guys having me, man. It's always
Yeah.
a pleasure.
Awesome. Anything else,
All right.
Dave?
No, I think that's it. I think that was this week's Guitar Dads podcast.
Okay, everybody, keep rock alive. We'll catch you on the flip.